We need to sink that mighty Terran battleship. If he is left to sail, our efforts are in vain. The captain on the Zelokan ship called out to his crew as he put a red telephone down on the arm of his chair. But sir, the Terran ship has already sunk the Takigama. What do you think we could do? One of the many crew on the bridge called out, speaking in everyone's minds. Correct. That monstrous ship has already sunk the Takigama, but she was old and was fit for a refit. Currently we are on one of the Empire's newest warships designed purely to fight Terran ships. He took a deep breath before continuing. We have 189 rotating laser cannons, 400 anti-ship missiles, 1,000 anti-missile and small craft weapons, as well as the most advanced shields in our Empire. This order comes from High Command. He paused, letting his crew relax a second. Sink that Terran battleship for the honor of the Empire. Aye aye, sir. Some of the crew called out proudly, as they returned to their work programming computers and finding scans of the Terran warship the Takigama had taken before its sinking. The Terran warship fit within their super battleship class. Almost 1.2 kilometers long, or just under 1 mile, the ship was titanic. 12 800mm cannons fitted in 4 turrets, 1,586 secondary weapons ranging from 200mm all the way down to 88, as well as 600 anti-ship missiles. Yet no one complained or said anything about what they were about to face as the captain walked over to the helmsman. Pressing his sight-on-covered finger to the screen, he dragged it across. Here, this is where we will intercept the Terran ship. There, sir. That is the Zeklona sector, though. It's miles away from where the Takigama was sunk. The captain nodded. Yes, but the Terran warship is apparently retreating back to its own space. If we don't catch it before they cross the border, we will not get another chance as currently it's alone. As the captain walked away, he could hear the helmsman asking his companion, why would a Terran ship be out here alone? Don't they normally travel at least in pairs? He sat back down in the large chair that he had made his own on this ship, slouching slightly as he placed his free-fingered hand on his chin. Once you have our route ready, transfer the coordinates to the entire fleet and set our heading helmsman. It only took a few seconds for his dashboard to emit a soft ding, and for a purple light to come on as lines of text appeared on the screen in front of him. Coordinates received. Heading set. Destination designated. Confirmation scrolled up the screen. Navigator, do we have a clear road ahead of us? He called out, looking down the length of the ship at the navigator who sat at the very tip. Yes, sir. We have a clear path to our destination. It will take us 9 days and 6 jumps to get there, though. He gave a slight smile. Good. We should get there ahead of the Terran ship. Follow our course, then. I'll give further orders once we arrive. The navigator started typing away in his computer, along with the helmsman, before the space in front of their ship seemed to tear open. Blue light poured from the tear in space as it slowly approached their ship, pulling it in, causing the vessel to creak and moan under the mysterious force. Each ship produced the same tear in space before getting sucked in and vanishing from the sector they were in. 16 ships disappeared into the depths of space, and few ships ever went to the borders of empires. They were known as the stomping grounds for pirates and criminals, yet their orders were clear. Sink the Terran battleship. Across the 9 days, they passed through planetary systems and nebulas, weaving around giant stars and pushing through solar storms. At the end of the 9 days, they tore through space once again, their ships erupting into a beautiful system made from a tri-star core and a single gas giant that orbited it slowly, being consumed by the massive gravitational pull, leaving the trail of particles strung between them. The left door that led onto the bridge opened with a hydraulic hiss as the captain stepped onto the bridge, yet no one looked at him as they continued with their work, preparing systems and having different sectors go through readiness checks. How many ships do we have, helmsman? I hope we didn't lose too many from battle-ready status. The captain slowly walked over to his chair, before bringing himself around in front of it to sit down, crossing 2 of his 4 legs over each other. We only lost ships 296 and 305 from battle readiness, sir. 2 destroyers. The captain nodded. That's fine then. Just losing 2 destroyers is acceptable, as we don't know if they could actually do anything. Sensors, are there any ships on screen? The room went silent as people waited for him to respond. I think our sensors might be bugged, sir, but they are saying there is 1 ship ahead of us, 19 degrees off dinner, but the signature it's giving off is similar to a planet cracker, sir. He stood up from the chair he had placed himself in, walking over to the helm. Are we sure it's not the Terran ship? Maybe the Takigami scans were wrong. They were done in the last second. The sensors officer shook his head. Impossible, sir. Terran ships normally take at least 12 days to travel this far. By the time we left, we should still have a day's time. The captain only looked over it for a moment more. Hail them. I want it on every screen on the ship. Are you sure, sir? What if we can't get through? The captain slouched back down in his seat. If we can't get through, then I'm wrong. Simple as that. The communications officer, who had been watching the whole time, got to work sending a request for a comms path to the object several miles away from their position. To everyone's surprise, the object answered and a woman appeared, dressed in a black uniform with red lining her chest, was fully exposed, only covered by strands of black hair. Slowly she reached behind her back, pressing, assumedly, a small device as the captain did the same. I'm surprised it took you this long to find me. I've been in a battle-ready stance for the last 8 days waiting for you here. The Terran woman spoke, spreading her wings slightly to gesture to the ship, instead of moving her arms. 8 days? Terran warp technology isn't that advanced. That would have been an almost instant warp across 42 systems from your last recorded location. She bowed sarcastically. Terran warships turrets at your service. I am Blood. The vessel one of your ships fought before was manned by a human crew, but in that period I woke up enough to sink that vessel, and then send the human crew on ahead after some slight protest. The captain stared at her for a moment before bursting out in laughter. So, you are a newborn Ironblood. Jeez, why was I so concerned? All you have done is sunk an already wounded warship. He gestured to his crew. The 13 ships he was left with came to life as lines of lights along the hulls lit up, as weaponry shifted to aim towards the lone Terran ship. Ah, what a shame. I was hoping to have a more polite conversation. But you seem to not know this ship before I was awoken was already only crewed by half its capacity, she spoke, smiling slightly at him. Don't lie to me, Terran warship. A ship like that one couldn't possibly be half-manned and be fully combat active, enough to sink the Takagama. A crude smile spread across her face. Why don't we find out? 13 versus 1 seems fair. The Terran ship lit up, now visible in front of them. Red tribal patterns spread from the bow down the length of the ship, wrapping under the hull and over the bridge. On one side, 18 hidden thrusters erupted from the ship, sending bursts of blue flames thrusting out, turning the ship to face his force on its side. Slowly, all 4 turrets turned to face him, while the side of the ship opened wide, as almost 300 turrets rose from their holdings. For the honor of the Terran Empire and my future battles, I shall make a name for myself here and now, by killing every one of you in less than a minute. The communications line went cold as the ship lit up with fire, illuminating the darkness of space, as every single gun fired at once, and from the ruby-red hull white trails of smoke, tipped with orange fire, could be seen flowing from it. What the hell does that Terran think they are doing? We're almost 15 miles away. There is no chance those guns can hit us. They are not even lasers or plasma, the captain called out, as he stood with his face almost pressed against the front window, watching the shells and rockets fly through the sky. Even without orders, the ships in the formation started to move, firing off chaff and flares, as they tried to avoid the missiles and shells, as flak and anti-aircraft rounds shot from the deck-mounted weapons. Sir, our flak rounds aren't doing anything against the Terran rounds. I don't know how, but they seem to be moving randomly. Smart rounds, the captain called out, as he watched some of the missiles miss, being distracted by the flak and chaff, while others were shot down by the flak. Yet he watched in horror as the titanic shells crashed into the side of his ship as well as 2 cruisers. One set crashed through the ammo carousel of a turret, sending it flying into space at incomprehensible speed, as the explosion shot through the vessel, sending each turret popping off like a party popper. As the captain watched in horror, one of the Empire's greatest ships buckled in on itself, as the air was sucked out, crushing it like a tin can. A small buzzing sound echoed through the bridge as a blue light lit up in his console. Walking over, he pressed the blue button, and on the screen in front of him appeared the Terran iron-blooded woman. So, what do you think, Captain? A single salvo and 1 ship dead, and 3 maimed, including your own. Alarms were going off within the bridge, as breaches were sealed, and the 3rd turret burned in front of the bridge. Fuck you, Terran! Fuck you! He yelled, before slamming his hand down on the button, closing the communication. All stations! Fire everything we have! The world suddenly lit up with fire and trails of white smoke, as every single ship within the captain's fleet fired, as they moved towards the Terran warship, attempting to get closer so they wouldn't miss. The Terran ship lit up with flak and countermeasures, as it turned to face them, the same blue flames turning the ship 90 degrees before it settled. Both sides with trails of red light erupting from round turrets and square secondary batteries. Only a few shells made it through the wall of flak and ignored the flares. The captain watched in joy, hoping the plasma rounds and lasers would penetrate the armor. Yet to his horror, even the plasma, known for burning through steel, banded off with a metallic ting, ricocheting to dissipate in space. Yet the Terran warship Tirpitz didn't fire back. Letting them get within broadside distance, letting them get a good look at her skin and the red tattoos that covered her hull, along with the black and white camouflage lines. Slowly, the large turrets turned to face the ships as they pummeled shells into its hull, either compressing on the mix of solid steel and composite armor melting away, or ricocheting off the softly curved hull. The captain watched in horror from his close position, as the iron blood of the ship seemed to enjoy the fight, grinning with a cruel smile as she seemed to conduct the ship. A riding whip in one hand as she danced around the bridge, different lights and alarms coloring the black bridge, making her vanish and reappear at random. He was so entranced and horrified by the dance she was producing, he didn't notice the huge gun swing towards his vessel. The last thing he saw was her turn towards him and grin, before rapidly bringing the riding prop down as the main guns fired at less than 200 men, and every secondary weapon shredded the hulls of the thinly armored cruisers and destroyers. Time of start, 19:25:56. Time of end, 19:36:52. Cortana, record the entire battle log and transmit it to Terran High Command. There was no answer, but she was sure the ship AI had done exactly as she commanded. She opened the door on the side of the bridge, stepping out onto the main wooden exterior deck of the ship. Walking towards the bow, she ran her hand along the side of the B turret, feeling a cold shiver go down her left arm as she did so, finishing at her fingers as she got to where the guns left the main mount. Slowly, she walked up the slight incline towards the bow. Looking over the space in front of her, scanning the 13 wrecks that now drifted towards the 4 stars at the center of the system. Soon they would be burning coffins. The ship jerked under her feet, yet she didn't move, as a huge blue spiraling pool of water appeared in front of the ship, slowly shifting over it, dragging the ship into the depths of warp. As the ship accelerated more and more through the pathways known as warp rivers, ice formed on the hull, and huge icicles formed on the guns, while the doors the smaller guns sat behind were locked in, a place frozen shut. Slowly, the ice crept up the hull, coming close to her feet. Yet as it lapped at her feet, the ship jerked again, before suddenly returning to normal space, erupting with a trail of stretched water behind it as the ice instantly shattered. Normal space was much warmer than warp rivers. She looked around, looking for the world she hoped to see, before the small device that sat behind her right ear gave a soft buzz. Pressing one of the many buttons, a voice spoke into her ear. "Terran warship Tirpitz, this is Terran Space Command. You have entered the armored holy space of Earth. Respond or you will be destroyed. Repeat, respond or you will be destroyed." Tirpitz sighed, glad to hear a human voice. Pressing the small button again, she responded. "Terran Space Command, this is Tirpitz. We are on time and on course. How are you?" A laugh came across the radio. "It's good to hear from you, Tirpitz. Earth welcomes you home for the first of hopefully many times. Dock 15 of York is preset for your work down."